wanted to give an update on me finishing this sentence awkwardly. I just finished the first book in my TBR for the Magical Readathon, which was The Song of Six Realms. And I just wanted to give a little update. I finished it yesterday, and was it yesterday or the day before? I finished it in a day or two ago. Either way, I had a little bit of time to kind of sit on it, think about it, collect all my thoughts. I ended up giving it a 3.5. It's probably going to be a little spoilery or very spoilery. If you haven't read it and you want to, or you think you might, just don't watch this part. Okay, this is your like spoiler tag. Don't watch this. This is your countdown. If you don't want to know anything about the Song of the Six Realms, and I will be talking about spoilers, you don't want to hear it, either take your earphones out, turn the captions off, don't watch this part. But here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Spoiler time. I'm not going to go super in depth. It was a fun book. I really did enjoy it overall. I think my main takeaway from it is it felt a little fast. The pacing just felt a little bit too fast for me. It started off not slow, but like at a good pace. Then once our main character, like her contract gets bought out by the Duke. We don't know he's the Duke at the time, but turns out he's the Duke. Like she gets taken away to his estate. Then it just speed ramps up, man. It just goes kind of from 20 miles per hour to like 75. And I was talking about this to Tian, my husband, and he was like, do you think it should have been like 2 books? And I was like, no, I don't think so. And after our main character's contract at the House of Flowing Water gets bought by the Duke and she gets taken over to his estate, it just kind of goes from like a medium paced book to really, really fast. It just felt like the author was trying to put all of these things, all of these events, all of these people, all of these political things into a very condensed book. I don't think the book should have been longer. I also don't think it should have been 2 books. Oh, hi. Beyonce's here to share her opinions. I think the length of the book was fine. It was like 387 pages, at least the ebook that I read. I don't know. The pacing for me was it just felt like they were trying to cram a lot of stuff into not as much book, if that makes sense. And it also, there were a lot of characters, a lot of like all the different realms. This is my cat. Thanks. Thank you. Get your tail out of my face. There were a lot of characters, a lot of different realms, a lot of different gods, a lot of different just political stuff, a lot of events that happened to the main character and kind of guided her story. Other events that also shaped the story because they happened to the Celestials and the gods in the past. But that also ties in. It was just a lot of information. And because I read this as an ebook, I didn't have a physical copy, which I felt would have been nicer for those times when I'm like, okay, hold on. What is this god again? And like, they're celestials. They don't call them gods. There are gods, but they're not the same as celestials. There's just a lot of information. There's a lot of different like beings in the universe, I guess is the best way to put it. And so when they would reference one, there were a lot of times I'd go, hold on. Who are you again? You're celestial, but like, where do you fit in? And were you part of that story? Oh, wait, no, that was a different person. So it would have been nice if I had a physical copy so I could kind of like flip back and forth, because in the ebook, the glossary for like all of the characters and a lot of the terms, it pulled a lot from like Chinese mythology. That glossary was in the very back, and that's not really helpful for me in an ebook. It's an ebook. I understand they can't really, it's going to be somewhere. It's either in the beginning or in the end of the book. I understand. I do wish I had read it as a physical copy though, because it would have made it a lot easier for me to flip back and forth so I could understand things a little better, keep track of people a little better. Maybe I need to start annotating. Maybe this is a sign that I need to start taking notes in all of the books that I read. And you know what? That's okay. We live and we learn. Say hello. He's a brat. There was just a lot of information, a lot of characters, a lot of places, a lot of events, a lot of stories, and it got a little confusing. It was a little bit much. In a way, it was an open ending. And what's funny is probably like 10 pages before the very end of the book. Oh, it's going to be a happily ever after. Okay. Kind of expected it, but it wasn't. It wasn't a sad ending, but it didn't wrap things up nice and neat in a bow. And it was more of an open ending. And I like that. I really enjoy when books do not have a nice happily ever after. Those endings are fine too, but I really enjoy it when it's not a happily ever after. I think that makes it more interesting. So I think that's what kind of helped bump it up to a 3.5 to me, because a 3 is not bad. A 3.5 isn't bad either. I think I was just overwhelmed with all of the information that was being given to me. It was also, there was a point kind of towards the beginning when the main character is at the estate. All of like the celestials and demons, gods, like their stories, obviously for the mortals. You know, these are stories that the parents tell their kids, stories that just the mortals are aware of these beings. But to me, it was presented as they were aware of them as stories, not necessarily these are actual beings. All of these things truly did happen. It was just these are stories that were passed down through generations. So then when our main character ends up at the estate and the Duke is like finally telling her like, okay, well, here's what's going on. Here's the 411. She's more upset that like he was hiding information and not telling her the full truth rather than and it kind of came off as her going like, oh, wow, weird. Celestials and gods are like actually real. Wild. She wasn't really that surprised. So I was a little confused. I was like, so do mortals know that they actually exist? Overall, it was a really good book. I enjoyed it. I was a little lost at times. The pacing just felt really fast. It felt like they were trying to cram a lot of stuff into not a lot of time. But I did like that it wasn't a happily ever after all neatly tied up in a bow ending. That was nice. And the story was really interesting. It was really fun. I enjoyed it. I also really enjoyed all the mini stories about how the world was formed and stories about the gods and about the celestials. Those are always fun to me. I really enjoy mythology books. So that stuck out. That was also a plus. I would recommend this book, even though there was a lot of, oh wait, I'm in spoilers. I can say whatever I want right now. Even though there are creatures called Ravagers, there's like these battle scenes between some of the characters. The demons are coming through. Ravagers are killing people. The Ravagers are being killed by some of the celestials. I think it's the Sky Sovereign. They're out there going, you need to go kill them because they're going to ruin this world. They're going to ruin our realm. They're going to ruin the mortal realm. So there is death. There's a lot of battling. There's a lot of political stuff. Even with all that, it still felt like a cozy fantasy to me. And maybe that doesn't sound cozy to you. Maybe some people out there are like, okay, battles and blood and big creatures killing people is not cozy. It is to me. So if you want, I think, a cozy fantasy, I still recommend it. I thought it was enjoyable. I do think it would be better to read it as a physical copy rather than an ebook. So you do have easier access to the glossaries of all the characters and all of the different references. Overall, 3.5 out of 5. It was a good time. I enjoyed it. And I think that was a good way to kick off the Magical Readathon TBR I have. The next book I was going to read on my Magical Readathon TBR was going to be Iron Widow, because I was trying to save Ship of Destiny until the end so I could just sit down and enjoy it. I think what I might do though is start Slewfoot next, and I also might start Ship of Destiny. I might read both at the same time and just be able to kind of flip back and forth as I feel like it. I wanted a little bit of a break because I know Iron Widow is also fantasy, not necessarily exactly like Song of Six Realms, but for me it's going to be close enough that I want a little bit of a breather. So I think I'm going to start Slewfoot next. And I also am going to start Ship of Destiny at the same time, which I'm very excited about because my friend Gumi has already finished Ship of Destiny and they're just waiting for people to talk about it with. I'm going to have my notes ready. Maybe that's what I should do. I need to start taking notes. Maybe that's why all these booktubers annotate and take notes, so that way they can have some clarity when they come to make a video and they can separate their notes into non-spoiler and spoiler, which I think is fun. I enjoy a good spoiler though, especially if I know I'm not going to read the book or if I'm not going to read it for a long time. I have the memory of a goldfish, so if enough time goes by, I won't remember a damn thing about that book. I think that's all I have. I'll update after I finish Slewfoot, because I will definitely be finishing Slewfoot before I finish Ship of Destiny, and we'll see how that one goes. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
Okay, sorry for the weird lighting. Tian is actually streaming right now, and me trying to record something for YouTube while he's streaming would just not work out very well. So I didn't get to film any updates this week. It's not been a good couple of weeks, and I still have not done a update for Slewfoot that I finished and for Iron Widow. So I have all of my notes. I took so many notes. I loved Slewfoot. 10 out of 10. I could absolutely see me rereading Slewfoot, so I'm probably going to get a physical copy of it because I ended up borrowing it from, I think, Kindle Unlimited, and I flew through it. It was so good. I might not end up doing as many spoilers for this one because so many things happened, and I really wish I would have recorded my thoughts immediately after finishing the book, but it's been a rough couple weeks, so I just didn't get around to it. I really connected with the main character, Abatha, just right off the bat. You're dropped into the time of the Puritans and like people just coming over to what is now the United States of America. So you have Abatha, who is the complete opposite of a typical Puritan woman, and you get to follow her story from the time that I think she's already been on the homestead in like where she's landed, maybe for about a year. It's been a short amount of time. It hasn't been too long. So Abatha and Edward, her husband, live on a farm that's outside of like the town area, the town proper. She's basically an outcast anyway. She's doing her damn best. She's trying hard to kind of do her best to fit in with the Puritan rules, even though she's like, this is BS and I hate all of it. So Abatha meets this character who introduces himself as father, and what's really interesting is not only are we getting Abatha's point of view and her story, but then we're also getting father's story, because he's woken up and he's kind of like, who am I? What's going on? There's some little like wild folk, and they're like, oh, your name is father, and you're our father, we're your children. Here's your job, like, here's what you do. Here's who you are. But in the back of his mind, he's like, something's not right, like something's off. So he doesn't really know who he is. So I really enjoyed that because we get two different journeys in the same book, and we see how their lives and their paths intertwine with each other. The ending was it was so sad. It was so devastating in so many different ways. It was incredible. I want to talk about it so badly, but I don't feel like I would do a good enough job. Like, I took notes, I still remember what happened, but I also don't want to spoil it. With other books, I would probably have no issue being like, hey, here's a bunch of spoilers, so if you want to read this or you don't want to hear the spoilers, cover your ears, fast forward. I don't want to give spoilers for this. It's so good. I don't want to tell you anything. I want you to go and read it. You grow to hate certain characters so much. Brom did an excellent job of making me just absolutely despise one character in particular, but a whole bunch of them in the town. The author did such a good job of bringing these characters to life. The ending, it was so good. The whole book was so good. I 100% will reread this. I gave this one a 5 out of 5, and I think everyone should read it. And it makes me want to read more Brom, too. So another book that I just finished for Magical Readathon is Iron Widow, and I also really enjoyed this one, too. I think I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5. It reminded me a lot, especially at the very beginning, of Pacific Rim, where they've got, like, the big robots who are fighting these giant monsters that have invaded Earth. And so, like, you have certain people who can only pilot the robots, and they're kind of put on this pedestal. And I was like, This is giving Pacific Rim vibes, and Pacific Rim came out like 7 years, I think, before Iron Widow. But it definitely took it in a different direction than the Pacific Rim movies did. My only criticism was I knew that going into this, it was a duology. I would have not ended the book the way it did. I feel like they kind of tried to rush the end of the book. How do I describe this? I feel like they tried to go ahead and set up the issue for the second book way too soon. I feel like they could have ended in a certain spot, and I also don't want to do a spoiler for this one as well, but they could have gone into the second book already kind of set up with an issue in a way, and then dropped the big bomb of what is going to be the big problem for book 2 at the very beginning of book 2. I don't think they needed to do that at the end of book 1. I think it kind of rushes it too much. It just felt really rushed at the end of it. It felt like they were trying to be like, oh, we have to hurry up and make sure that we set up the problem so when we open in book 2, right off the bat, we're going straight into the problem. We already had an issue that was set up for the start of book 2, and they could have opened book 2, tried to start finding out like how to solve the problem, and then drop the big news and be like, oh my god, we have an even bigger problem now. But they did that at the end of book 1, and I felt it kind of took away from the ending of book 1 in a way. So that's my only criticism, and that's why I gave it a 4. I'm very generous, I'll say, with my 5-star ratings. My typical rating system just up here is I liked it was okay, or I didn't like it. I don't really go too far into it. And I really enjoyed this one, so a 4 is still really high. I probably would have given it at least a 4.5, but the ending just, that's kind of what dropped it to a 4. I still am really interested in the second book. I really want to know how it all plays out, so I'll definitely be continuing the series. The only book I have left for Magical Readathon is Ship of Destiny. I'm not really sure why I left it until the end of the month, because I have a kind of busy end of the month, so that's not good. This weekend, I'm filming this on Thursday the 17th. No, it's not, it's the 18th. I didn't know what day it was. It's currently Friday the 18th. So this weekend is the Magical Readathon all-nighter, and I think it starts on the 19th, which is tomorrow. I probably won't stay up for the full 24 hours, but I am going to try to read as much as I can over Saturday and Sunday. And the 2 books I'm going to try to read, I'm going to try to finish Heir of Fire, because I'm already in the middle of that. I'm about halfway done. And then I'm going to start Ship of Magic. I absolutely will not get it done, but I think I can get it done before the end of the month. So that's my plan for the weekend, and that'll be my last book for Magical Readathon.
Ship of Destiny. This will be the final book for my Magical Readathon vlog update. I just finished this yesterday, I think. Today's April 29th. Yes, I finished it yesterday. And oh my god, I can't decide if Ship of Destiny or Mad Ship is going to be my favorite out of the Live Ship Traders trilogy. I really don't know. It was so good. We got everything wrapped up. So many things happened. Because I read a majority of Ship of Destiny this past weekend while I was out of town for family stuff, I wasn't really able to take a lot of notes. I probably could have taken them on my phone, and maybe in the future I might take like a little notebook so I can write my thoughts down, but I didn't do that this time. I was just fully absorbed in the book with everything that was happening. Everything's just going to live up here. So this is going to be chaotic per usual, and we're just going to go with it. Ship of Destiny is wrapping up a bunch of different viewpoints. The Live Ship Trader series is multiple viewpoints. You have a whole bunch of different characters that are involved in the series, and we see them throughout the books. We get to flip between different point of views. So many things happened. I don't want to give any spoilers because immediately after I read the last page, I was like, I'm going to buy physical copies. I might buy 2 copies. I know some people are going to clutch their pearls and be like, why are you buying 2? We don't need to do that. Listen, I want to annotate one copy and then I want another copy that's just clean, fresh, and then I can just read whenever I want to. This trilogy was so good, and as much as I wish I had started the Farseer trilogy so I could be caught up and have read everything in order, I'm really glad that this was my introduction to Rob and Hobb. I loved all of the characters, even the ones that I absolutely hated and wished just awful things upon these characters. I still love them, because if you are an author who can create a character that the reader just cannot stand and just absolutely despises, that is a very special kind of talent. Because even though you hate that character and you're like, I don't want anything to do with this character, I want that character gone, they're just the absolute worst of the worst, top tier villain, you have to appreciate how well the author has written that character for you to just despise them that much. Because I don't want to give any spoilers for this, I do eventually want to reread at least all of the Live Ship Traders books. I want to do a more in-depth video much further in the future, so I don't want to do any spoilers now. Towards the end of the book, I almost cried a couple of times, and I don't like crying. I don't cry very easily, so that should probably tell you something. The only other person in our buddy read that has finished the book, I just told them yesterday during Allie's stream, and I was like, oh my god, I finished it. It was so good. I loved it so much, and we both agreed we wanted a little bit more at the end, because there's one tiny little epilogue. Honestly, it was a nice way to end it. I did enjoy the ending. It left me wanting more in a good way, because I don't have to have a perfectly wrapped up, happy ever after ending where everything is set into place and you're like, okay, everything's done. We're good to go. It wrapped things up really nicely. It concluded the whole story, while left me wanting a little bit more. I wanted to know a bit more about the characters at the very end. I just didn't want it to end. I think that's what it was, is I just did not want this story to end. I could have kept reading about this for another 2 books at least. And I also appreciated that even though I've only read the first book in the Farseer trilogy, there were some things in Ship of Destiny that referenced events or places in the first book of the Farseer trilogy, which makes me more excited to get back into that so I can have a more full understanding of that world as well. And now I'm also really excited to get to, I think it's the Rainwild Chronicles, where it might pick up after the Live Ship Traders, because the Tawny Man trilogy I feel like that one's gonna be more connected to the Farseer trilogy. If I'm right, which I may not be, the Rainwild Chronicles might be a little more tied into the Live Ship Traders. So I'm just really excited to continue the series. I absolutely will be buying physical copies. I'm going to be annotating them. I'm going to be rereading them. It was a really good way to wrap up the series, and I think that was honestly a great book to end the Magical Readathon on. It was the biggest book of the 4 that I had to read, and at the beginning, I think I said oh my god, this book is over 800 pages. They're all over 800 pages. They're big books. But I was like, why did I wait until the end of the month and the end of the readathon to read this one? Why didn't I read it at the beginning? That was dumb. And I'm glad I waited until the end, because other than Slewfoot, I think this has been my favorite book out of the 4 that I've read for Magical Readathon. I just wanted to film some final thoughts. I don't really have too much else to say. I do want to kind of rank the books that I read for Magical Readathon in order. Ship of Destiny, I think, is probably, if not the top book, it's going to be tied with Slewfoot. In fact, I think Ship of Destiny and Slewfoot are probably tied for me. They're very different from each other, but both were so captivating, and I didn't want to stop reading either one of them. They were so good that even while I was reading them, I was like, I'm going to reread this. I want a physical copy, and I absolutely am going to reread this in the future. And then the next book is Iron Widow. I already own the physical copy of that. It's a good book. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the story, and I'm excited to see what what happens in the next book in the series. And then Song of Six Realms, which is actually the first book I read for Magical Readathon. I wasn't as invested in this one as I thought I might be. I still really enjoyed the mythology books and stories that follow those types of stories are some of my favorites. Just I really couldn't connect with the characters as much as I wanted to. I still think it was just a ton of information. It felt like the author was trying to cram so much information into not a lot of book, and that kind of put me off a little bit. It kind of separated me from the characters and me from the story a little more than I wanted to. I still really enjoyed it. I still enjoyed learning about the mythology and the stories that the author created for the book. I think that really wraps it up because I know I gave my thoughts on the other books as I finished them earlier. I really enjoyed having the spring semester be my introduction to Magical Readathon because from my understanding, the fall semester kind of double the amount of reading that you need to do. I think it takes place in October. I'm going to try to participate in that as well. It seems a little more involved, so I will probably be leaning on my friends again to try to help me figure out what I need to do. I do have a character. I actually picked my character's name, but I don't remember what it is. I'm pretty sure I wrote it down somewhere and I can't find it. That's fine. We'll figure it out. I can see myself continuing to be involved in the Magical Readathon. I've really enjoyed what G has created from this. She has done such a good job. She's made it so fun and entertaining. You can see how much work G puts into this and how much people enjoy it, and for a good reason. It was really fun and it wasn't too overly complicated, especially since I had friends that had previously participated in Magical Readathon, so any questions I had, they were easily able to answer them. And G has a whole G drive of information along with old YouTube videos that explain how to participate. I really enjoyed this and I had a lot of fun. If you read any of the same books that I did, please let me know in the comments below. Or if you have any book recommendations that might be similar to the books that I've really enjoyed, please also leave them in the comments below so I can add those to my TBR. And let me know if you participated in the Magical Readathon. Let me know what you read. I'll probably end up adding some to my TBR. Every time I see someone talking about like, oh, here's what I read for this readathon, or like, here's what's going to be on my next month's TBR, I always end up adding at least a couple of those books to my TBR. There's so many out there and they sound interesting, and there's no way for me to find them all by myself. So I'm always up for recommendations. But thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Thank you to G for hosting another semester of the Magical Readathon, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.